So welcome back to today's episode of A Class Act. What if you could sit down with the head of AI inside one of the UK's most regulated digital banks and hear the truth about what actually works and about what leaders need to get right? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. So before we dive in, if you're a senior leader navigating AI, data or talent in your organisation, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Every episode will bring you conversations with the people that are shaping what good looks like in AI leadership across enterprise. Now back to today. Our guest is Dr. Russell Collingham, the head of AI and data science at Atom Bank. He's worked in AI since the 1990s, beginning as a lecturer and researcher in artificial intelligence at Durham University, and then moving into industry where he led engineering teams, served as AI practice lead at Hedgehog Lab, and now he guides Atom's AI strategy in a live, regulated banking environment. This conversation is set to give you clarity, frameworks, and most importantly, lived experience that you will need to make better decisions. So Russell, thank you so much for joining us today.
What a great intro, Shannon. Lovely to meet you. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. You've been in AI since the 90s. What initially drew you to AI way back in the day?
Well, I started my PhD at Durham in 1989, and we just had a natural language understanding team, as AI in languages was called back then. Had just joined, and it was an interesting area. So I stayed on after my degree, did that. I did my PhD in looking at automatically transcribing lectures for deaf students. So speech recognition was rubbish at the time, and it was a look at how we could use language models in those days, which were quite small, to produce words and actually transcribe a lecture and make it useful. And then, as you say, I stayed on and lectured in AI for a few years as well, which was really enjoyable. Really enjoyed that.
It's funny, isn't it, given that the hype around AI at the moment is if it's something brand new, but it's been around since the late 80s, early 90s, even beforehand. So it's really interesting, and it will be interesting to hear your insight in the journey from then to where AI is now. So thank you for sharing the start of the journey with us. What perspective do you think that blend of academia and industry has given you that leaders may overlook today?
Well, I've been in industry 25 years now since leaving the university. To put it into context, back then, the context was, these days in LLMs, we talk about a context of 1 million tokens or about 1 million words. Back then, the context was 2 words. So we've come a long way. So it really makes you appreciate what we've got now. So that's really quite interesting. But I guess academia gave me excellent training in reading, digesting, understanding what's fluff and what's actually important when people write about things. It's given me a forensic attention to detail in terms of evaluation, tracking performance, looking at results of systems. And actually, it was a safe space to try things and innovate and fail fast and learn from those, because doing a PhD in academia is all about trying to do something new and pushing the boundaries. So it gave me that appetite and that ability to try and fail and not be concerned about it.
And I suppose that doesn't always exist in industry. So it's great that you've been able to see the impact of being able to do that. And I'm sure that's then been super important for you creating that space and the teams that you've led throughout the years as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're working in industry, you have budgets and you don't necessarily have the time to do that. So balancing that innovation and delivering is quite a challenge. I'm very supported at Atom to do that. They realise it's a new area. We don't know all the answers. It's a fast-moving target in the field. Everything's changing so fast, we don't always know the answers. So we have to try and learn how best to tackle each problem as it comes up.
Yeah. And you mentioned industry, we have budgets, we have targets. So looking at sort of practical terms for those listening, where is AI delivering value for Atom today?
Atom's been around 11 years. We were the first UK app-based bank, but even for an app-based bank, we have an awful lot of manual work going on, an awful lot of document processing, especially in our lending areas. And for us, AI is a bit of a superpower. It allows us to punch above our weight. Really, automating those back office processes just removes a whole load of tedious and time-consuming work from people, and it makes our people happier, and it results in a quicker service for our customers. Doing the back office work as well lets us learn about the capabilities. Remember, I said it's a fast-changing world. Doing that back office things, not customer facing, lets us learn about what the capabilities of generative AI is in a bit more of a safer space. And we've always got humans in the loop as well. It allows us that experimental area to learn and grow as the technology grows.
Interesting, because it sounds as though it's working across a number of different areas of the banking. You're seeing value in different areas. And what I think some of our listeners who are maybe outside of banking might not expect, what are some problems that you're solving that some listeners like that may not expect?
So a few practical examples then. If you bought a house, you'll often get a property valuation report done. In the lending world for commercial lending, those property valuation reports can run to over 100 pages long. And it takes on average our underwriters 104 minutes to extract around 25 bits of information from that, which is extremely tedious. The information's all over the place in the document. Using AI, we can do that in less than a minute. So that's better for our underwriters. It lets them focus on the more interesting areas that require a human touch, and just getting that information out and presenting it to them ready is perfect for that. AI is perfect for that. We do a lot of document reconciliation. So our brokers upload documents. We have documents in the land registry. We have 4 eyes tasked to check names and addresses, and it's extremely tedious. We can do all of that with AI and just let them focus on cases where the broker's uploaded an incorrect document or something like that. Looking at our contact center, we have quite a small contact center based in the Northeast here, but even still, the volume of calls that we get, our managers can only listen to around 1% of those calls to look at do quality control and to look at how they can improve training. With AI, we can process 100% of those calls. We can identify the topic of the conversation, the customer's sentiment, the agent's sentiment, whether we need to monitor whether there's a vulnerable customer, they're talking about they're having difficulties in using the app, and how we can come up with a recommended training program for our agents as well. We don't get anywhere near that kind of coverage with our human managers.
That's incredible. Even just that time cost saving, isn't it? 103 minutes versus 104 minutes, that's saving across the spectrum. That's incredible. So that's a number of different areas where AI is making a difference in the bank. Where have you chosen not to apply AI yet?
At the moment, I guess anything that risks our reputation. We're quite a small bank. We do very little advertising. We rely on our reputation to produce quality products and customer service. We've got the holy trinity of 5 stars on Trustpilot, Apple Store, the Google Store. So anything that might endanger that puts my job at risk. So we're trying to get confidence in the technology by those back office tasks. Customer-facing AI will come when we're ready for that, when we've got competence in that. But we're learning how to use the technology, what its limits are. You have to remember that generative AI is non-deterministic. So with typical machine learning, you give it a set of data, it'll come up with a statistical output and give you a number, something like that. With generative AI, it's non-deterministic. The output that you get is different every time you use it. So when I say we're extracting information from a document, we have to make sure it may write the words in a slightly different way, but we have to get confidence that it's still giving us the correct answers. It's not hallucinating. So we have to monitor that performance, get confidence in the technology. When we're confident, we'll start to put more things in front of customers.
Amazing. I love that. So, from your experience, what have been the biggest blockers to AI adoption inside enterprise?
A really simple one, I guess, to start off with is your technology team, your AI experts aren't necessarily SMEs within the organization. So, for example, even though I've been working at the bank for nearly 4 years, I know so little about banking. Fortunately, I've got 30 years experience of working in AI and technology. So that allows me to demonstrate the art of the possible with AI and new technologies to the SMEs within the bank and help them. They know what they're spending time on. They know what the opportunities are, but they need to know what the capabilities of AI are. You have to get your AI experts and your SMEs working together within an organization to help define what those use cases are and work together on building the solutions. As an organization, I would say we weren't at all ready for AI. Banking's highly regulated, so our risk and our audit controls are foremost in everybody's minds when we're working on technological solutions for our customers. They all needed updating. We have to get that balance of innovation and safety that I talked about earlier. All of our processes had to be updated. Security, safety, data processing, all had to be updated to accommodate AI. It's been a real effort to bring the whole organization on that AI adoption journey. I'd say there's also a bit of a tension because the CFO and the CEO go, 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 more, more, more. And the CRO, our Chief Risk Officer, and our audit team, hold on a minute, let's just make sure we do this the right way and cautiously to make sure we're not going to break anything for customers. So there's that tension to overcome as well.
And it sounds that communication piece, that partnership piece, even internally, is really important to making sure that anything that you're taking on is
essential. I mentioned that the audit and risk is a big chunk, but they're really positive about adopting AI. They just want to be involved in that journey. So we don't rush to deliver something that is risky. They just want to be brought on that journey, and they've been very supportive.
Oh, I love that. And so conversely then, when AI projects do succeed, and you've touched on it potentially in your answer there, but what conditions tend to be in place organisationally to allow that success to happen?
Getting buy-in at the top level. You have to make sure the CEO and CFO can see the benefits of what you're doing. So demonstrate clear benefits. So whether that's speeding something up, reducing future FTEs, saving money, generating revenue, and then showing that you can measure, that'll ensure that you get that support. For example, I've now got a dedicated team building AI solutions. On the back of that explanation process to the top level exco, I should say that 2/3 of my team are female as well. So we've got a real gender balance, positive gender balance, which is rare for technology. So that's really good as well. But demonstrating those benefits is essential to get that buy-in. You need to know the limitations of each technology, identify those use cases, and be able to show the benefits and measure that benefit over time to keep getting that reinvestment in the technology.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the gender balance that you have within the team. And I think it's super important as you're bringing new ideas to the table that you'll only get the best ideas if you have that gender inclusivity and all the other parts of the spectrum as well. I think it's super important. What role should architecture and also data foundations play before even looking at ambition?
For the generative AI, data is a bit less important for us at the moment, but architecture is going to be critical. So we're just starting to play around with some more agentic solutions. They need to have a bit more access to information. So imagine you're putting something in front of a customer that helps them with customer service inquiries. Can I change my phone number? Can I change my name? I've just got married. Can I update my address? Can I make an overpayment on my mortgage? All of those require connections into our back office systems. So the APIs that we've got for our app don't necessarily exist for some of our more lending services. Our app is mainly savings-based rather than lending-based. None of those APIs exist. And if you're building APIs for a mobile app, they're also quite different set of requirements for if you're trying to build an API for agentic solutions. So A, services don't always exist, and B, the kind of data that you produce. So for an app, for example, you might paginate data so you get a small bit of data to display because you're typically on a mobile phone signal and things like that. But an agent might require a different way of realizing that API and the data transfer that you need. So architecting for AI is different for architecting for a mobile app. And we've got to start internally, we've got to start thinking about if we want agents to have access to data and offer information and do things, you've got to give them access to that in a safe and secure way.
And I think there's just so much to consider, isn't there, before ambition takes over, making sure that you have the foundations in place to create as much success as possible, because there's clearly an awful lot that can go wrong along the way as well.
Yeah.
I suppose moving on to some leadership and some skills areas, what skills and roles are now, do you think, Russell, essential inside an AI capable bank? What are we looking for in terms of our people?
So we've talked about that communication, that explanation piece. I think it's important for your leaders within the team to be able to be good communicators. You have to explain what the art of the possible is to non-technical SMEs within the business, to your executive leadership, to your decision makers. Explain clearly what the benefits are. So having a business head, but also having a technology head, that's really important. I'd say one of the roles that's made the biggest difference within the bank is one of the first roles I recruited to the team was an AI champion. That is a non-software development role. So it's a technical role, but not a software development role. And our AI champion literally sits with each member of the company on a one-to-one basis and says, what are you doing in your role that takes time? And how can I demonstrate the benefits of AI to you? And how can I help you self-serve in your role to increase your personal productivity, get rid of the boring drudge work in your job, and just make your job more enjoyable. That's made a massive difference within the bank. We've got a lot of people who want to learn about AI, but they don't get the benefit from classroom-based learning. They'll learn a few tricks, generate a funky picture of a cat wearing sunglasses, but they don't actually learn how it benefits them in their specific individual role. So our AI champion doesn't give those lectures. She sits on a one-to-one basis and helps you in your individual role. That's really starting to make a snowball effect within the business. We're now getting little AI champions within individual teams as well. Now they can see the benefit. But having that person just makes a huge difference to a company. And I'm really pleased that we got the investment to do that and hire. I could do with more, to be honest, but that role's been excellent, really fantastic.
And I know we spoke about this briefly previously, but there's so many elements of that I do love. The first part is the investment. It's not necessarily something that you can see this person's going to deliver X, Y, and Z, but you can see the importance of it. And I think what it also does is removes that fear from people with all the sort of propaganda that there is around AI and AI taking jobs. Actually, you're making it very clear, as you said in your own words, Russell, it's about removing maybe the drudge work and allowing you to enjoy your job more rather than your job away from you.
Yeah, take our customer contact centre. They're desperate for us to get a customer agent to get rid of that 50% of common queries. I can't get in the app. I need to do this. I need to do that. That are really kind of knowledge-based FAQ type things. Because once we can remove that from their daily calls, it gives them the opportunity to put in that empathy, that human touch. I've sat with the call center. If somebody phones in and they've just suffered a bereavement, they've lost the husband or they lost the wife, and they need access to their savings account or access to the mortgage, that's where you need that empathy from your customer agents. That's where AI is not going to replace those, but our customer agent can see the benefits. If we can take away the volume, the simple things, it gives them the time to do that. And certainly on that individual basis, our AI champion is really, like you say, people are afraid to ask. People are afraid in a classroom scenario, but in that one-to-one, that role just lets you say, well, I get this email and then I have to put it in a spreadsheet and then I have to decide if it's to do this or to do that, or how do I do. And she just sits with people and just explains simply what the benefits can be and how they can use AI in their day-to-day work, and people love that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's massive for adoption. I think for any of our listeners who are struggling internally in their organisations about how to adopt AI, I think it's a brilliant idea that they could potentially implement in their own businesses, potentially even with somebody they already have in the team. It doesn't even necessarily need to be an external hire. Yeah,
exactly. And actually, we did an internal appointment for somebody who'd been in our internal service desk. So they were used to dealing with people, used to helping with technology queries, and they also then became an expert in our AI tooling for self-service. I would say having a mindset for scaling. It's easy to produce a little POC for AI, vibe code it in 5 minutes. But if you're going to deploy something into production that customers are going to use, or you're going to use as part of that lending process, you need to have that scaling mindset and that continuous evaluation mindset. Don't always trust the AI. Make sure you've got something in there to monitor performance and monitor the how new models perform before you automatically adopt them. Model the trend over time and make sure they're doing what you want them to do.
Yeah.
And having that mindset's really important.
And I think what you've also demonstrated here just in this part of the conversation is that while there's potentially a fear around AI taking our jobs, there's a perfect example of AI actually creating new jobs that maybe didn't exist before as well. So that's super exciting.
Yeah. And it becomes a shift. So you're, as I said, I'm not an SME in loan underwriting, but I want our loan underwriters to if, let's say we have an agent that can help them in their work, they become the expert in defining the prompt or the rules or the workflow for that agent themselves. They're the expert. They know how they want automation to help them in their job. Not me. I'm the technologist. I'm not the underwriting expert. So I think that gives them a slight skill set shift in their role as well, and makes them own it rather than being a servant to it. They actually own that process.
And I think you've potentially touched on parts of this as well, but how should leaders be thinking about building their AI teams in a way that now avoids fragmentation within those teams?
I think it's critical to get your technology specialists to work with your SMEs. It really is important because they know it's easy to do things quickly. It's easy to do things for fun, but you want to do things that make a difference. So for us, every hour counts. We've got a 4-day working week. So I only work Monday to Thursday, which is fantastic. So that means every hour is critical. So if I can save an hour a week of somebody's time, that's massive. That's massive for our productivity and lets them do more important tasks that require empathy, but also it lets us scale as a bank. We want to scale the bank like that, but we don't want to scale the number of employees linearly. We want to keep our costs low because that means we can offer a better service, a quicker, cheaper service for our customers, offer them better rates and a better app and the better capabilities that they need and help them in their spending. So everything that I can improve in productivity, even saving an hour a week, is going to make a massive difference. So I think having the technologists and the SMEs working together is really important. For us as well, there's a lot of shiny things. Don't get attracted to all the shiny things. AI is changing so rapidly. It's easy to say, I must do the latest, greatest thing. For us, we want to be leading edge for a bank in adopting AI. But we don't want to be bleeding edge for AI. We don't have to implement the latest, greatest, shiniest thing. Even something that was new a year ago is still producing fantastic results for us on a day-to-day basis. Yes, I might want to play a little bit and evaluate the latest things. There's still so much you can do with out-of-the-box things. There's an arms race out there in the large language model world in generative AI. Google produced the latest version of Gemini, then Claude. Anthropic produced the latest version of Claude. Then up comes DeepSeek from China with another version of their models that are even better. And there's some fantastic league tables on Hugging Face that show you. But we're just benefiting from all of that. Without me doing any work, I've suddenly got a better model that I could use if I wanted to. But make sure you evaluate them, make sure you test them. You don't always have to go for the best. Like I said, something that was great a year ago is still producing fantastic results. So don't get over excited by the hype. You can still do great things. Delivering results today is more important.
Great advice, isn't it? It's looking at what you need it to deliver rather than what you need it to do.
And just get something out there because you can see immediate benefits. You really can. That's really important. So leading edge for your company, but not bleeding edge in terms of AI. I think that's an important phrase to remember.
Yeah, I think that'll be a phrase. That'll be a tagline phrase for the pod, I think. So looking, let's say, 3 to 5 years ahead, which can be difficult to do in any time, but particularly in these times of AI. But what meaningful changes do you expect AI to bring specifically to banking operations in that time frame?
Probably something like personalised financial advice. So let's say you get a bonus from work, Christmas bonus from work. Wouldn't it be good if you had an agentic assistant within your banking app that notices that and then gives you advice and say, I've noticed you've had this £5,000, £2,000 appear in your account, and then advise whether it's best to make overpayments on your mortgage or whether you've got some of your ISA cash limit left, so maybe you should put it in your ISA, or whether you should put it in a higher interest savings account. So wouldn't it be great if you've got an advisor, a personal advisor that could keep an eye on your finances and help do that? Maybe you've got lifetime events coming, a wedding, buying a car, buying a house, planning a big holiday, or even planning retirement. Wouldn't it be great if you could have that advice on budgeting and financial planning for the future? And you've got that personal assistant that knows about your spending habits, knows about what money you've coming in, can help advise on that. I think that's something for the future. I've got a bit of work to do in banking with the FCA and the Bank of England to understand when you can get that kind of financial advice from an AI. But I think that's coming. That'll be the direction of travel. I think that'd be great to see that personal advice. I guess education's another area. My daughter's buying her first flat. She's going through a mortgage. She's using me as her Google. I know nothing about banking. She's still using me as her Google. Wouldn't it be good if she'd got that educational aspect so that she understands the different types of mortgage, what loan to value is, if you actually made a slightly bigger deposit, what impact that would make on that would bring down the risk value for the bank so you'd get a better rate, it'd make your monthly payments smaller as well. Wouldn't it be good if she had that educational, I don't think they teach it much in schools, but wouldn't it be great if you could have that AI education to help you with financial matters and things like that and give you that understanding? kids today, I don't think they know much. Unless it's on TikTok, they don't understand anything about mortgages, lending, savings, ISAs, or anything like that.
I think it's such an amazing point. And even as you're speaking, like for me, that excites me, because I think one of the barriers to being financially astute is the understanding piece of it.
Yeah.
And if there's money sitting in your account and you don't have options of what to do with it, then the next best option is to spend it. I think to give people that education and also make it easy for them to execute those decisions, I think would be a massive game changer.
And what's the medium of choice? My daughters don't phone call centres up and ask for help. They'll literally just use the app.
Yeah.
So they'll say, can I do this? Can I do that? They'll use chat on an app, but they won't phone somebody up. So their medium is an app. 30 years ago, all we had was the telephone. We had to phone somebody up or write a letter to ask for help, where they'll go into a branch and ask for help. But these days, young people use their app. So if that's their doorway into information, wouldn't it be great if they had that personal assistant, that educational tool that could help them and help them educate them and help them on their. So I think that would fit in what they would prefer compared to, as an older person, what I would prefer.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And looking at the sort of capabilities that you're personally most interested in exploring further, what does that look like for you over the next couple of years, do you think?
Well, I'm in the twilight of my career, shall we say. So I'd like to leave my team and I'd like to leave Atom in a good place for the future of AI. So over the next few years, that's my goal. Get the team, get the automation, get the adoption of AI, get the understanding of AI working well. On a personal front, I guess I'm an old school software engineer. I've been programming for 45 years. I got my first computer in 1980. I'll always be tinkering. I'll always be playing with new things. I've always had a strong desire, strong ethics, internal ethics, strong motivation to try and do good. My PhD 30 years ago was around helping deaf students. My neighbour growing up next door was deaf. I've always had that motivation to help people. So maybe when I've retired, I'll do some tinkering and I'll help people and I'll help do some good. I think that would be good. And that would be a personal objective, perhaps.
No, I love that. Absolutely love that, Russell. And if you had to sum up the future of AI for leaders specifically in 3 words, what would they be?
I actually cheated on this. I asked Gemini. This was really hard to do.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
But the answers are really good, actually. I quite like them. 3 words to sum up the future of AI for leaders then: embedded. So AI is moving from pilot purgatory, so small experiments, small isolated chatbots, to becoming the invisible engine room of the enterprise. So it's going to be working behind the scenes, doing things, supporting things. So I think embedded AI, not just isolated pilots. I think it's a bit of a cliche, but agentic is a key word. We're moving from generative AI, where it thinks and creates something. You ask it to do a specific task, rewrite this email so it's a bit softer, do this, do that, to an agentic AI, which acts and thinks and executes tasks for itself. So you may give some overall instruction, like that underwriter example, that underwriter agent I mentioned earlier. So you may have that overriding guidance and instruction, but it can make decisions and act for itself. So that's agentic is definitely a route forward. And I guess augmented is another word. So the narrative is shifting from replacing people to a symbiotic relationship, so augmenting human capabilities. So the competitive edge belongs to organizations that use AI to supercharge their human specialists, that the human capabilities, and not just look to cut costs.
Yeah.
So if you can use AI to supercharge your SMEs, your domain experts, that'll bring those superpowers and you'll get a much better multiplier than relying on AI and automation just completely on its own.
Absolutely fantastic. And what a brilliant way to end the podcast. Russell, thank you so much. It was genuinely such a clear and insightful look into what it takes to make AI work inside a regulated organisation, but also from your own personal perspective. For those listening, and if this episode helped clarify your thinking or gave you something useful to take back to your teams, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're speaking to people who are actually delivering AI in enterprise so that you can stay ahead of what good looks like across data, engineering and leadership. And as always, if you're navigating AI readiness, scaling data teams or rethinking your talent strategy, the team at NBN is here to support you. Thank you for listening and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to A Class Act. If you've enjoyed the episode, make sure to follow the show so you never miss a conversation. And if you're building a data team or making a key leadership hire, reach out to us at MBN Solution using the link in the show notes.